We all know what it is to be happy. Unfortunately, we've also experienced the feeling of unhappiness. I think we would all agree that being happy is much better than being unhappy. And I'm sure that most of us would prefer happiness over unhappiness. A little wonder then that over 2,000 years ago, Aristotle came to the unsurprising conclusion that what a person wants above all is to be happy. I guess Aristotle would be very happy if you could share in what I am about to share with you, namely a little model that could help you to be happier more of the time. But before I go there, I would like you to think of 3 recent challenges that you faced. Could have been at work, could have been at playing sport, could have been doing something at home. I then want you to scribble them down. Here are mine. My first one, I prepared a proposal for a workshop. The second one, I had to do a technology assessment for a client. And my third one, I did some mountain bike cycling with a friend of mine. Now I want to introduce you to a highly respected US psychologist by the name of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. What a name! So let's simplify things and just refer to him as Mike. In 1961, he made the following profound observation. I quote him: "While happiness itself is sought for its own sake, every other goal, health, beauty, money or power, is valued only because we expect that it will make us happy." Interesting, eh? Subsequently, he interviewed over 1,000 people about what made them happy. He was specifically interested in how happiness could be gained through activities, and this state of happiness he called flow. He found then that all the respondents had 5 things in common. They said they experienced happiness or flow when they were intensely focused on an activity which was of their own choosing, meaning that it was neither under-challenging nor over-challenging them. It had clear objectives and they received immediate feedback. People also told Mike that when they were in this state of flow, they experienced a profound sense of satisfaction, but that they also lost track of time and forgot themselves completely because they were so immersed in what they were doing. Typically, musicians, athletes, actors, doctors and artists described how they were happiest when they were absorbed in an often exhausting activity, totally contradicting the commonly held view that happiness has to do with relaxation. So let's make use of Mike's observations and work. I want to go back to my 3 recent challenges and look at the first one, which was to prepare a proposal for a workshop. Now, looking at this and looking at the 5 questions or dimensions against which I can score that, I would think that it was an activity that intensely focused my mind. I was totally concentrated and I didn't even notice time going by. So I was really in a state of semi-flow when I did that. So I'll score myself about 10 there. On the second one, whether it was by my own choosing, well, the level I chose was by my own choosing, although I had certain norms and standards to achieve which was specified by the client. So I would score that at, say, maybe 8 out of 10. The third criteria, whether it was under-challenging or over-challenging me, I would say it was slightly under-challenging me. It's very hard to really achieve your best in a proposal where there are limitations set by clients. So I would say I was slightly under-challenged, so I'd also score that around about 8 out of 10. Clear objective. Yes, the objective was clear, although the client didn't give me an absolute briefing, so I had to, anticipate some of the questions that needed to be answered. So that frustrated me a little bit, so I'll score that at, say, 7 out of 10. Immediate feedback. Well, obviously I only got feedback once I sent it to the client, and that was a couple of days later, so I think that was a little bit of a frustration. So I would score that even later, say 5.5, 6 out of 10. I trust that this gave you an idea of how I would suggest that you analyze and review the activities that you chose. Next, I want to move to something that I think is very useful. Let's look at a little diagram in the form of two axes, a vertical and a horizontal axis. And on the horizontal axis, I would like to plot our abilities that we have to meet a challenge with. And on the vertical axis, I would like to have an indication of the challenge that we face. Now let's have a careful look at what this graph could mean. Let's go to the corner where we are low on a challenge and we use very little of our abilities. A task like that would cause a sense of apathy in ourselves. We would rather not care about it and we're not inspired. So that's a very low score. It's low in challenge and it requires only a few of our abilities. On the other hand, if we go right up the challenge ladder and we stay with the abilities at the same level, we can have a challenge that really asks a lot of us, way beyond our abilities to do that task. If we do that on a constant and continuous basis, that might lead to burnout. The opposite is true. If the task at hand has got a very low challenge, but high abilities are offered from our side, we are on the opposite corner at the plus of the horizontal axis. The equivalent of that is bore out. We are totally bored doing the job. Let's have a look at the diagonal line. This is the line that goes up at about 45 degrees to the top right hand corner. Any point on that line is an equal distance on the abilities axis and on the challenge axis, which means that everywhere on that line there is a perfect balance between the challenge at hand and the abilities we have at offer to meet that challenge. Now Mike said, if you are in such a position, you experience the state of flow, where your challenge and your abilities are perfectly matched. You enjoy the task and you see the results. This line also divides the little diagram in two halves. On the upper side of the diagonal line, you will experience some over-challenged tasks. On the bottom hand, you will experience some under-challenged tasks. So your cluster on the top side steers you into the direction of over-challenge or burnout, and those at the bottom to under-challenge or bore out. If I now go back to my 3 recent challenges, I thought of them as follows. The first one, preparing a proposal for a workshop, I would say that is on the lower sides of each of those 2 scales, but I was in a state of flow, so I think the challenge met my abilities fairly well. I was plotted sort of centrally on the graph. On the other hand, the technology assessment I did took me out of my comfort zone. I have less abilities in that area, and the challenge was quite formidable. So I felt a little bit under ability and a little bit over challenge. So if I do those kind of work every day, I will definitely end up in burnout. And then the mountain bike, cycling with my friend, well, we choose our own challenge to just meet our abilities, and therefore I had a optimum sense of perfect flow when I did that, and that's why I so much enjoy my cycling. Okay, so now you need to plot your 3 activities on the same diagram. Okay, but here is something even more useful that you can do. I want you to have a look at your diary, say for the last 5 days. Look at each of those activities. Apply the 5 questions to analyze each of them, just to give you an idea of why you liked or disliked that specific item doing it, and then plot that item on our little graph here. It's either on the top side or on the bottom side, or it's an area of flow. What you want to achieve over time is you want to have 75% of all your activities to fall in the flow line. That's when you will experience a happy and sustainable happy life at work and at home.